Hello, hello, everyone. Welcome, welcome to our talk. We are so excited to be meeting with you today. So we're going to wait for some more folks to join this webinar. But if you're joining us from around the world, if you want to, you're more than welcome to add into the chat where you're joining us from. So we are here from Walt Disney Animation Studios, and we are so excited to be speaking with you today a little bit about our journeys, pathways into Disney animation. And we're also going to go through our filmmaking process here at Disney Animation. So at the end of this presentation, we're going to have some time set aside for Q&A. So there's a Q&A section where you can enter in any of your questions. We'll take those. Hopefully have about 10 to 15 minutes at the end of this deck. So feel free to put those in. Just a little bit of housekeeping before we get started. We ask that you don't take any pictures, record anything during this presentation. I believe we're going to be recording this, might show up on the BRIC site afterwards, but yeah, just absorb all this information while we're with you for the next hour. So we're going to go into some introductions. I am very excited to welcome our first panelist, Katie Lowe, our animator. Katie, if you want to take it away for an introduction.
Sure, thanks, Tyler. Hi, everyone. My name is Katie, and I started at Disney as a production assistant on Ralph Breaks the Internet back in 2017. I later switched over to the animation department on Frozen 2, and I've been a character animator ever since. My career path was very indirect and took a lot of winding turns, so please get comfortable. This will take a few minutes. But yeah, I'll start by saying I am not someone who knew they wanted to be an animator since age 4. When I was little, I did love to draw and make my own characters, but I sort of fell out of touch with art and focused more on science as I got older. I wanted to become a surgeon, so I actually went into the pre-med program at Harvard undergrad. And then I made it as far as organic chemistry, which I actually failed one of my midterms miserably. And I remember in a matter of minutes, I went from panic attack to total peace as I decided, like right then and there, that I didn't want to be a doctor anymore. And it was time for me to switch career paths. So that same year, Fantastic Mr. Fox and Up came out. And I remember watching the DVD extras and realizing that animation could be a real career path. I decided to take an animation elective at school, and I totally fell in love with the art form. But when I graduated, I still had no clue how to break into animation. So my first job out of school was actually to become an NBC page in New York City. I thought any job in entertainment was a step in the right direction, but I pretty quickly realized that the page program was really only going to lead into live action work, a lot of news and late night television. But I still really loved animation, and I couldn't figure out how to break in. So I actually applied to some animation jobs with the really amateur work. Oh, sorry, my Siri is talking to me. So yeah, back to NBC. When I was there, I actually applied to some animation jobs with really beginner work. And I didn't get any responses, and I felt really lost. But then Wreck-It Ralph came out that fall, and I loved that movie so much that night I went home and I Googled animation schools. I was really, really lucky to get into the MFA program at SCAD, the Savannah College of Art and Design. So I decided to go back to school. And then I mistakenly thought it was too late for me to learn 2D or CG. I just thought it was too late for those skill sets. So I actually decided to focus on stop motion animation. I thought it was more accessible because all you need is like a camera and a puppet, and then you just take pictures and go. Um, so when I was in school, I did a summer internship in stop motion at a studio called Leica. And I wasn't quite advanced enough at that point to get a job offer. So again, I pivoted and did a 180, and I decided to try production management. I thought I have production skills from the NBC Page program. I now know some animation. So animation production, that must be my calling. That led me to my first production assistant job at Blue Sky Studios, which was in Connecticut on the story of Ferdinand. But sometimes life gets in the way. So when I was at Blue Sky, my boyfriend at the time, who's now my husband, received a job offer out in Los Angeles. So I decided to follow him out to the West Coast. I didn't have a job and I joined a networking organization called Women in Animation. And I saw that they were hosting a Q&A screening of Zootopia with the director, Byron Howard. On a whim, I decided to print off my resume, and I wrote a personal letter to Byron about how much I loved his work and dreamed of working at Disney someday. Somehow, magically, the screening audience wasn't very large. So I approached Byron with my letter, and my hands were like literally shaking. And I introduced myself. And then a week later, I got this magical email in my inbox, which was the subject line was "Hi, it's Byron from Disney." And I leapt out of my chair, and it turned out to be a referral email where Byron was introducing me to a recruiter. And long story short, I interviewed and got hired for a production assistant job. So, as a Disney production assistant now, I worked with the story, editorial, and tech anim departments on Ralph Breaks the Internet. And again, another career pivot. I really loved my job, but I could tell I felt increasingly drawn to the artist side of things. And I kept finding myself spying on the animation department and what they were up to. So I had another quarter life crisis where I debated, do I need to go back to school again to learn CG animation? Should I quit my job? Should I study on the side? But then again, I got super lucky, and it turned out at the end of Ralph Breaks the Internet, the studio was hiring animation trainees and they were actually open to internal candidates. So I went to an info session and they said they were open to candidates with 2D and stop motion. So I immediately applied with all of my stop motion work. I was really lucky to have some really great mentors and cheerleaders at the studio who helped recommend my application. And then I was chosen to be a trainee of back on Frozen 2. The rest is history. I climbed from animation trainee to apprentice to assistant animator to finally staff animator. And I've been in the animation department ever since. So that's my really long story with winding paths. But yeah, I'm so excited to turn it over to Kevin so he can tell you about his path to story.
Hey everybody. Yeah, awesome story, Katie. Very windy. My road's like still windy, but less windy than that. My name's Kevin. I'm a story artist here. Um, so far the only announced thing I've worked on is Moana 2, which is really awesome. I started out I grew up in a small town in Southern Oregon. Um, and it was kind of away from everything, not near a city where kind of all the animation is. And I kind of never thought of art as a job really. I grew up watching Disney films like most people, and I watched a lot of anime, and um, I just drew a lot through school. Um, but yeah, animation never felt like a path for me. Where I grew up, it was kind of more like manual labor jobs. Like my mom was a server at a restaurant. My dad um, built like hardwood floors. So after I graduated high school, I just started working at places like Home Depot, coffee shops, restaurants. I did construction. Um, and at some point, I took a drawing class at a community college, and my teacher told me I should pursue art. Um, I was confused, and I was like, "Well, you can't get a job in that." And he told me, "Well, there's plenty of things like graphic design or architecture, or animation," which kind of lit up the back of my brain. Um, I've always kind of had a passion for animation and drawing, or drawing characters specifically. Um, and so I went home and I researched it, and um, I found a bunch of resources and just kind of there's so much online. Like we're living in a really cool time where just everybody's sharing everything, including Disney. Disney will post storyboards and stuff. So it's good to see kind of like it kind of like opens up the process so you can kind of get in there and kind of like learn the craft. So yeah, I looked up a lot of top animation schools and tried to reverse engineer the curriculum based on what people were posting. People are always posting about their journeys, which is so helpful. This is why this is great. Um, People talking about their jobs in animation, so you know what's expected. I'd look at podcasts, interviews, bonus features of films. I'd find storyboards online, just uh, just everything I could. And I ran into a blog from a uh, a story artist here at Disney named Mark Kennedy, um, and that was kind of like a really felt like a very well-rounded education just in that blog itself. He covers so much, so yeah, I was learning a lot, and um, I built my portfolio and like sketched a bunch of sketchbooks, and I applied to CalArts, and I got in, but I couldn't go because the tuition was so high. I never had any kind of support from family or anything, and I couldn't pay for school even with student loans. So um, I was very discouraged. It was like a really critical point in my life where I kind of chose whether or not to continue. Um, I felt like I had to have a wealthy background to get into animation, and um, I had to go to school in order to get internships. So, like, internships were off the table, and I understand a lot of people who can't afford to go to school are probably discouraged from getting in the industry. But um, so I just wouldn't have the resources for school. I wouldn't have connections. I didn't live in the area. Just kind of, I just felt really, it felt really hopeless. But then I realized I just had to figure it out for myself. I had all those resources, like I said, to kind of like dig in. I could make my own school. Um, I kicked it into high gear and started kind of making solid deadlines and pushing my skills as much as I could. I thought of it as like my anime training arc. Um, yeah, I just took all my resources that I gathered and tried to make full use of all of them. And that's when I kind of started posting more online and posting like storyboards or art I was doing. And I got a few jobs, freelance jobs, remote, um, from doing that. And and that was while I was living in Oregon. So especially in these times, working remote is like a possibility. But yeah, after a while of doing that, I moved to LA to work in house at Titmouse Inc. on a show called Nico and the Sword of Light. And after that, I went to work on at other studios on various shows and films. And I took the Disney story test at some point, and about 3 years after that, I got an interview. And now I'm here at Disney working on a bunch of cool stuff. And yeah, I'm currently a story artist on Moana, which is a dream come true, or Moana 2.
Awesome. Thank you, Kevin. Thank you, Katie. So I'm going to do a quick introduction, a little bit of a journey of myself. So I am Tyler McKim. I am part of our talent development team here at Disney Animation. And I'm folded under the studio or overhead teams that support the artists and technologists here at Disney Animation. I recently celebrated my 7th anniversary here at the studio and in this role. I'm born and raised here in LA, graduated from LMU. And when I was going to school at LMU, I was fortunate enough to get an opportunity here at Disney Animation as a summer marketing intern. That was absolutely fantastic. I was going to school for communications, really focused in on marketing and publicity. And being here for those 3 months during the summer just really opened up my eyes. I was able to build a ton of relationships, not only within my immediate team, but within the wider studio here at the organization. And I had amazing mentors while I was here as an intern. What I did is I had to go back to school for a semester, and I stayed in contact with my mentors and the folks that I met along my journey as an intern. And I was fortunate enough right after I graduated to get an opportunity to return back to Disney Animation. And that's when this opportunity in talent development opened up. I didn't necessarily think I wanted to be in talent development, but I got to work with that team as an intern. They put on different meet and greets, activities for me, and just really opened up the possibilities as an intern and part of that team. And the rest is kind of history. So now, today, I manage all of our interns, trainees, and apprentices all the next gen talent coming into the studio. It's incredibly fulfilling being in this role. Get to see so many new faces, see folks really, fulfill their potential in a really short amount of time. And it's really just fulfilling being a part of that growth process here at the studio. So it's a little bit about my journey. And now we're going to jump into a little bit more about the wider Walt Disney Company. So at the Walt Disney Company, we are made up of various businesses ranging from Disney Parks, Experiences, and Products, which is DPEP. That's where Disneyland, Disney World fall under. We have ESPN, and then under Disney Entertainment, that's where we sit here at Disney Animation, along with many of our sister studios and other organizations. So we are Walt Disney Animation Studios. We are where the Walt Disney Company started, and that was 100 years ago last year. So we have, created amazing films over these years. Up on your screen, you'll see our very first project, Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, released in 1937, and then going through all of our films over the years up to our most recent release, Wish, which is our 60-second feature film here at the studio. Walt Disney Animation Studios now has two locations. So we are located here in Burbank, California, and up in Vancouver, Canada. And we love taking these, we call them like family photos in front of our building every once in a while. And our studio is made up of over 1,000 folks. So that includes our artists, engineers, production management, all of our studio teams. And we've created a really unique filmmaking process and culture. So everything from development through production and technology is completed in one thriving studio in two different locations. And collaboration is just really big tenet for us here at the studio, no matter what role that you sit in. And we all contribute to the overall filmmaking process. We are really excited for our next upcoming feature film release, Moana 2, which is coming out a little bit later this year. Moana 2 will be our 63rd feature film. Personally, I'm super excited because the first project that I got to work on here at the studio was the original Moana. So definitely feels kind of full circle that we're getting to create this film again. So today we're going to walk through our pipeline process, how we actually work here at Disney Animation, and maybe help kind of demystify the different departments and areas that could be of interest to you in your future. So every Disney animation film revolves around three core ideas. So here at our studio, our goal is to tell universal stories set in imaginative with compelling characters. And these three core tenets really tether us with any and all projects that we do here at the studio. So at Disney Animation, we have three different areas that we categorize folks that work here, and that includes studio, technology, and our production teams. So first up, we have our studio teams, also known as the overhead teams. And uh, with these roles, these areas really create an environment that encourages creativity, artistry, innovation. That's where I sit under with the talent development and recruiting team. We also have marketing, we have music, casting teams embedded within our studio. We have our animation research library where we save any and all work that we do in all of our productions. And we have amazing original artwork going back to the early 1920s. So there's a lot of different pathways outside of production or even technology teams that you could definitely pursue here at our studio. Our second team are the technology teams, and they work very closely with our artists to advance the art and science of animation, discovering new tools and techniques that shape the future of our animated storytelling. So the role of technology is to cast a large net of support to production and the studio as a whole. Our technologists and artists work very closely together to advance the art and science of animation. Inspired by a rich legacy, we really look ahead to discover new tools and techniques that will shape the future of animated storytelling. And then we have our production teams. And the next few slides, we're going to go through each of the departments that are up on your screen. So this is more of a linear view of our production departments. Our production management and the cultural teams are also part of our filmmaking process. And like I mentioned earlier, collaboration is incredibly important for us, no matter what department you sit in within our pipeline. So there's a lot of back and forth, a lot of notes, feedback that we take into account, and Kevin and Katie will definitely talk a little bit more about that with their personal experiences in each of their departments. So starting out, everything starts in development. So we have our creative development and research teams, and I would say research is incredibly important. It's research, research, research. All of our projects start with understanding that the world around us needs to inform the worlds that we're building in our pipeline. Every film at Disney Animation begins with extensive research, and from that research grows inspiration to really launch into our projects. You'll see some of images and videos from our Encanto research trip that we took a few years back. They worked with cultural consultants to learn about the culture, history, music, landscape of the area, and even like the cloth and hair that we're trying to create for each of our characters in that film. And everything really had to be researched thoroughly in order to set up our teams throughout the pipeline to succeed. So now I'm going to kick it over to Kevin, and Kevin's going to dive into our amazing story department, a little bit about what he does day to day and how we approach story here at Disney Animation.
Hey, so yeah, the job of a story artist, it's deceptively simple. We get the script pages, and then it's like, okay, just draw the script. But there's like so many aspects of the job that it's actually like we have these simple drawings, but there's like so much going on underneath and so much being built for the pipeline and the other departments that the storyboards are heading to. Things I think about just every day are my drawings clear? Am I drawing fast enough? Is the dialogue working? I'm thinking about the acting, perspective, layout, shot composition. I'm thinking about how the shots are working together. Are there too many shots? How's the pacing in this? Like, what's the character thinking? Does it make sense that they're thinking this after changes in someone else's part of the movie? So it's kind of it's like super overwhelming, and like even if you've been doing it a long time, it's overwhelming. There's just so many things to constantly think about. But as far as I know, story seems to be one of the most gratifying parts of the pipeline, since we just get to quickly mock up the film and get to see it, and kind of feels like we have a lot of leeway with things, and we get to make story changes as needed and stuff. Um, but it can be crushing at times because we're constantly pouring our hearts and souls into our sequences just to get them tossed if the story needs something else. Um, so yeah, you can, like at Disney, we're very story focused. So it's kind of, certain some places are kind of built a little more straight ahead, but where you're kind of like you're working on something and you send it down, but Disney will kind of work on a film and kind of craft it in a different way to where they're willing to kind of throw something out for something better. So it's great here. Um, and yeah, you can spend months making the best scene you've ever made in your entire life, but it just gets thrown out if it doesn't fit. And that's kind of cool. But also, really, like, you develop a thick skin in story, is what I'll say. But yeah, through storyboarding, you find problems that need to be solved, transitioning from the script to visuals, just like how you find problems from storyboards to layout. Story to visual development or story and visual development are really close as both refine the visuals. Story you can see here, we have really rough drawings. People board differently, but generally they're going to be pretty rough. And then yeah, VizDev comes in and they kind of we work in tandem with each other. We'll do rough story sketches and hand them to VizDev to kind of like make moments out of it, or VizDev will create inspiring images for the story. And yeah. Sorry,
Fantastic.
that's it.
Thank you, Kevin. And thank you for teaming me up with visual development. So our visual development teams is what really brings our characters' world stories to life. These artists take what we've learned from research and create the look of our film, the characters and the worlds that they live in. And within visual development, we actually have our environment and character designer, so kind of two different pathways. And there are some artists that can do it all, but a lot of folks usually specialize in one or the other. So what really starts as an idea, a board, a paragraph is brought to life by our designers in the form of memorable characters and imaginative worlds that they live in. The art moments created early on really help to inform the complexities of the pipeline and what other departments later on will be tasked with. So throughout this time, our technology teams are creating custom tools that are used by our artists and production management to really achieve specific operations and looks for the films. These tools move assets throughout our pipeline, starting out first in editorial and story, up through layout and animation, and throughout the rest of the pipeline. And like we mentioned, we're really trying to understand the complexities. If we need to hone in on something specific, that's where our technology teams are really partnering with our production teams to make sure that we're able to visually tell that story. So now that we have moved kind of through the development phase, we are now moving into our assets phase. So our modelers collaborate very closely with visual development artists to take those 2D concepts and turn them into dimensionality. They work closely with the rigging and animation teams to generate appealing character models and environments that will meet the demands of storytelling and the technical needs of production. Up on your screen, you'll see some examples from previous films. We have T poses, we have expressive poses, really making sure that we can understand the full dimensionality of the character that will move throughout the rest of the pipeline. Now we're going to move into our character technical directors, or as we call them internally, character TDs. The character TD team is made up of three different groups. We have our rigging team. So the rigging artists are the ones that are really crafting the intricate control structures and detailed deformation for animators to achieve the most appealing performances. It's kind of like building the skeletal system of the characters. You'll see that on the top right-hand corner of your screen right now. And then we also have our simulation team, which I'm going to move into, also known as Sim Setup. So simulation artists are really looking to tailor the costumes, maybe attend highly stylized hairdos, hairstyles, with a suite of advanced physical simulation systems. Then we move into look development. So look development, also sometimes referred to as texturing or surfacing, is creating the materials, the textures, the geometric instances that define the look of the 3D characters, environments, and props. So on the environment side of things, they might be creating like the look and texture of rocks, pebbles, sand, trees, foliage, and much more. For characters, they will focus in on grooming, so really looking at the hair, the different complexities of that. And then with our costumes, we're also looking at variants, so textures on the clothes, beading, embroidery, all of that. And we have some more detailed examples from Encanto. So really looking at like the understanding of embroidery, it's amazing just to see how detailed our look development artists can get. Up here on the screen, we also have some control modules, kind of adjusting that with the foliage. So again, research is coming into play, and research continues throughout the entire pipeline process. So now that the assets are in place and our tools are ready, we can begin creating a shot. So using art storyboards and rough assets, our layout artists are staging and blocking the cameras and the characters into virtual environments to create the shots and sequences that will ultimately become the film. So really ties into cinematography, different lens types, really looking at the composition of a shot and the camera moves. So that is all kind of being put into the layout process. And now I'm going to hand it over to Katie because Katie's an expert with animation. So Katie, take it away.
Cool, thank you. Yeah, so animators are essentially the actors in the pipeline. In the hand-drawn days, they used to say animators are actors with a pencil. So I guess now you could say we're actors with a computer mouse. We're responsible for everything in the character performance. So everything from blinking to breathing and talking to singing, dancing, and physical comedy. I think the best way to describe computer animation is that it's like having a really fancy puppet inside the computer. You can see at top right now that we have a control for every joint, mouth muscle, eye muscle, etc. And we carefully pose and manipulate the character to create a seamless performance at 24 frames per second. Though we animate primarily in the computer now, our animation is still heavily informed by Disney's hand-drawn legacy. So many of us still plan our animations by roughly drawing out thumbnails of the main actions and facial expressions before we dive into the computer. And many of our animation supervisors and directors will literally draw over our work when they give notes to help make our animation more on model and graphic and appealing. So, for an example of what I mean by a hand-drawn draw over, watch the process of the Elsa clip as it cycles. You'll see that some drawings pop on top, which help the animator plus their work. And also, I'll caveat right now that none of these shots playing are mine, but they are all completed by my very talented coworkers. I love being an animator because of the built-in variety of my job. One week I might be animating a reindeer, and the next I could be animating a cultural dance. I get to tackle more subtle and somber shots as well as really silly comedic ones. So every time I get a new assignment, I'll do a deep dive and gather reference. So for an example, on Encanto, I had a shot of Isabella hanging from a vine. So I actually studied a lot of circus footage of Rope's performances to kind of get an idea of the physicality and what I could do to make that look beautiful. And also for the simple shots that I can act out myself, I'll literally set up a camera and shoot a video of myself acting, usually pretty badly, but it's good reference. And I'll act out the scene. And sometimes I even ask some of my friends to shoot video reference with me. My husband's actually an animator at Disney too, so I'll grab him and have him perform scenes with me. Like we can be Princess Anna and Kristoff in one scene, and it's a lot of fun. So unlike live action, we actually get to be all of the characters in the movie, which is awesome. So, but as you watch these clips, you'll get an idea of the animation workflow and how our work progresses over time. So I mentioned earlier, our movies are animated at 24 frames per second, but typically we start by blocking out the major poses and the acting beats. So that might feel more like 4 or 8 frames per second. And during that phase, the animation looks a little simpler and it feels a little choppier. But once we get creative approval from the director, we'll start polishing the animation. And then we get into the phase where we sculpt every single frame to look great and smooth at 24 frames per second. We are also a very collaborative department, so we'll work very closely with other departments like visual effects, tech anim, and crowds. Special effects like water, dust, and fire are often influenced by characters, especially if you have a magical character like Star or Elsa. And then our characters' costumes are a huge part of their performance. So we will work very closely with the tech anim department, very closely on things like capes and skirts and hair. And then we contribute a ton of animation cycles to the crowds department to populate our worlds, whether it's the townspeople of Arendelle and Frozen or the weird creatures in Strange World. So yeah, with that, I'll tee it back to Tyler for crowds.
Thank Katie. So now moving into crowds animation. So our crowds artists are really creating kind of that full effect, maybe with background characters. You'll see the kids from Encanto in the bottom right-hand corner, or even left bottom corner with Ryan the Last Dragon, all those characters. So I think it's definitely a balancing act where they're trying to populate each of those sequences, making sure that it feels natural and organic, but also not creating a ton of additional work for the crowds artists to create each individual character. So really they're crafting the breadth and scope of humanity through the variety of cloth, skin tones, and hair. Universal shaders are created for all those different areas so the characteristics are grouped together in an automatic way, but again, try to make it feel organic and natural. You really don't want to have your eye drawn into kind of the background characters. You really want to focus in on the performances of our main characters here within our projects. And then moving into technical animation or tech anim, that is folded under our character TD department. And they're creating the animation of the hair, the cloth, all the elements that are really connected to the characters. And like Katie mentioned, again, we have our hand-drawn animators that are really integrated into this process as well. You'll see some draw overs in some of these examples. Alex Cooper-Schmidt, who is a supervising animator of Stitch back in the day, provides drawovers and bridges animation to technical animation. And then we have Set Extension. Set Extension is a small but mighty team. It has really grown over the years. It's now its own department, originally part of Look Development. So we really wanted to highlight, 'cause it's a little bit lesser known from some of the other departments in our pipeline. Our set extension artists work very closely with our production designers and the environment teams to stylistically extend a fully built digital environment, creating backgrounds, landscapes, and environments. And they're also working very closely with lighting and shot finaling teams as well. So we have some examples looping up here, but really kind of opening up the scope of all of our projects and making it feel more immersive and big and grand on a huge scale. And then we have effects animation. So our effects animators are bringing our believable worlds to life by adding motion to the world surrounding all of our characters through elements such as fog, dust, fire, smoke, water, rain, snow, and many other elements. And again, our hand-drawn animation carries through with hand-drawn effects animators integrated into the team, really stylistically, plussing the work that we're doing within the CG environment. And then we have our lighting team. So now we're getting a little bit towards the end of our production pipeline. And our lighting artists are an integral part of our storytelling process, using their keen eye to manipulate color and light to emphasize shifts of mood both subtly and dynamically. With an understanding of color, contrast, and lighting design, our lighters compose the digital lighting of the scene and assemble all the elements of a shot into a final composite to match the vision of our directors and production designers for that given project. So we have some examples of foundational lighting from Encanto. So this is a foundation lighting shot. And then this is an example of final lighting. And then another example, foundation lighting, and the end result with final lighting. So where can we use kind of lighting to direct the audience's eyes into specific moments within the film? So as you can see up here on your screen. And then we have our stereo artists. So our stereo artists are collaborating with layout, look development, and the lighting teams to create an immersive 3D experience that enhances our storytelling. We're really using stereo to push the emotion of the film, enhance the experience, and really draw our audiences in. And now I'm going to kick it back over to Katie to highlight production management.
Yeah, so this department is very near and dear to my heart because I started at Disney as a production assistant or PA. This department comprises all of the production assistants, coordinators, and supervisors who are essentially the project managers of the animation pipeline. So these folks are in charge of all schedules, meetings, and communications between departments. Proud people make sure we finish our movies on time and on budget. If you are somebody who loves spreadsheets and organization, this is probably, or you love to-do lists, this is probably a great department for you to consider. Production people, they usually rotate through the pipeline and they'll be assigned to various departments throughout their career. So it's kind of a fun way to get an overview of the whole animation pipeline. They'll have like kind of varying responsibilities depending on what department they're assigned to. So for earlier departments like development and story, production helps more with note taking, facilitating productive discussion and project research. Later on in the pipeline, production helps with a lot more nitty gritty tracking of every single prop, set, shot, etc., and just make sure that everything gets done on time. So regardless of the department they're assigned to, production management will run every meeting and sort of play host or MC, introduce every artist who is presenting, keep things on schedule, and give time checks as meetings are approaching their end time. As an artist, sometimes I have questions that production will answer for me. Like, is Asha wearing her cloak in this scene? Or is the magic wand prop ready to be animated? Do we have a video of the actor from the voice record for this scene? And somehow magically, all the production management people always have an answer. They're all knowing and they're just amazing. So I super value my prod team, and I think production management is one of the most important parts of our pipeline, if not the most. But yeah, I think next we're actually going to see a clip of sort of the whole pipeline coming together, and give an example of basically how all of the collaboration comes to make one unified movie.
Morning, Abuelo. Hey, when's Mag's gift happen? My cousin's ceremony is tonight. What's his gift? We're gonna find out. What's your gift? Who's asking? Us? Well, us. I can't just talk about myself. I'm only part of the amazing Madrigals. Who's all the amazing Madrigals? Ah, you're not gonna leave me alone, are you? Casita, help me out. Drawers. Floors. Doors. Let's go! This is our home. We've got every generation. So full of music, a rhythm of its own design. This is my family, a perfect constellation. So many stars and everybody gets to shine. Whoa! Let's be clear up while I run this show. Whoa! She let us here so many years ago. Whoa! And every year our family blessings grow. There's just a lot you simply got to know. So, welcome to the family Madrigal. The home of the family Madrigal. We're on our way, where all the people are fantastical but magical. I'm part of the family Madrigal. Oh my gosh, it's them! What are they? I can't remember all the I don't know who is who. All right, relax. It is physically impossible to relax. That's everything. What are your powers? Just tell us what everyone can do. And that's why coffee's for grown-ups. Might be a Peppa, her mood affects the weather. When she's unhappy, well, the temperature gets weird. Might be a Bruno. We don't talk about Bruno. They say he saw the future. One day he disappeared. Oh, and that's why Mom Julieta, here's her deal. Whoa, the truth is she can heal you with a meal. Whoa, her recipes are remedies for real. If you're impressed, imagine how I feel, Mom. Welcome to the family Madrigal. The home of the family Madrigal. Hey, coming through!
So just a little snippet of just seeing how everything comes together in our pipeline. So now we're going to shift over into some different next generation opportunities at our studio. So maybe some of you in the audience are currently in school, whether that's in high school or in a college or university. We have so many different opportunities here at the studio every single year. So we have two main areas under talent development. First up, we have our intern programs, and our intern programs are a 12-week paid summer experience here at our studio. And that covers production teams, technology teams, and our studio team. So if any of those kind of areas interested you as we went through the pipeline, definitely keep an eye out on our website. And really, our goal with our internships are those are targeted towards current college students or an equivalent accreditation program, at least 18 years or older. And you have a passion or an interest in animation, film, or technology. We have those every single year. Some departments might shift or change just depending on what our current needs of the studio are. But our hope is that you come in, you get to learn under amazing mentors, really get tied into our overall studio, the departments. You learn a ton, you have an amazing experience. You get to go back to your schools after that program to share kind of your knowledge and everything that you worked on while you're with us. If you are approaching graduation area in school, maybe you're a fourth year student or recently graduated from a college or university, we still also have amazing talent development programs that could be potentially of interest to you. So that falls under our training and apprentice program. Our trainee program is really focused on recent graduates, maybe folks earlier in their careers, or maybe you're making a career change and want to get into a specific area in the animation industry. Alongside the intern program, as an apprentice, you get to work closely with industry experts as your mentors. You get real-time production experience, and then you also get to meet amazing people during your time here. Again, the requirements are pretty similar, 18 years or older. You're an emerging artist with less than 3 years of animation experience, or maybe you're a recent college grad with a degree or equivalent experience. For the training apprentice programs, we have those every single year. Again, like the internships, those might shift year to year depending on our current needs of the studio, but definitely keep an eye out. For the intern program, since those happen every summer, I would start looking at our website in the fall timeframe for those opportunities to pop up. The training apprentice program, they kind of hit different parts of the year. So just keep an eye out and you'll see those pop up as well. With all of our talent development programs, we have some core tenets. So really, one of the biggest things is mentorship. We have amazing, amazing mentors here at the studio. With my personal experience, Katie might talk about this in a second, but the mentors that I had as an intern, I still stay connected to them today. So they are just incredibly inspirational. They become your peer, your friend, if you stay on here at the studio, and you get to work with some of the best folks in the world as your buddy throughout your time here. Collaboration, we've used that word a lot here throughout the presentation and pipeline overview. But you're going to be working closely with your peers, whether you're an intern or a trainee, collaborating with them. You might be doing group projects, and then also learning ways to collaborate with other departments in our pipeline through real-time experiences. Focused in on craft excellence. So each intern or training or apprentice, you have dedicated assignments and curriculum, really building up on your individual skill sets, technical skills, and making sure that you continue growing as an artist or a technologist while you're with us. Community is huge for us here at Disney Animation. So you're going to build community not only with your fellow interns, trainees, or apprentices, but also with your wider department, hopefully with the wider studio, and even folks outside of our studio that you can continue supporting, building up while you kind of go through your journey and career in the animation industry. And we're also looking for new voices. So because we are so incredibly collaborative, we are always looking for folks with different backgrounds, viewpoints, all of that to come together, collaborate, and amazing films that hopefully resonate with folks all around the world. So we're really looking at your unique skill sets, your voices to bring into our filmmaking process. We have smaller kind of family photo in front of our building. This was our intern group a couple of years ago, again, covering production, technology, and studio teams. I know that they all get together still to this day every couple of months over Zoom just to keep in touch and support one another. And now I'm going to kick it over to Katie because Katie came in as a trainee, went up through the apprentice level and beyond, and still here today. So Katie, you maybe want to talk a little bit about what that experience looked like for you.
For sure. Yeah. So I went through the apprentice program on Frozen 2, and it was a really amazing and formative experience for me. I was there with 4 other trainees, and yeah, as Tyler mentioned, we were all paired with amazing mentors. And over the course of the program, we did a bunch of practice exercises, all with the goal of training us up for real production work later on. So my trainee class, we got to work with Moana and Tui, Moana's dad. So we started with just still poses. It's a lot has to go into a strong animation pose. So I think we spent a week or two just doing poses of Moana and Tui. And then we moved on to a basic walk cycle, just practicing. We tried to do kind of some more specific walk cycles as opposed to like a generic simple walk cycle. We tried to insert some personality. And then we moved on to an action shot without dialogue. And we finished up the program with a dialogue practice clip. So something they recorded but didn't use. And we got to play around with that. And then we graduated from trainee to apprentice, and we moved into the crowds department on Frozen 2. So we animated a ton of animation cycles for background characters in Arendelle, and then we got to animate a few simple shots too. So I cannot tell you like how excited I was when I got my first ever shot, and it was the back of Elsa's head. It was awesome. I was so excited to actually have like a real shot that I could call my own. But yeah, the program was about a year long, and I am forever grateful for that opportunity. I think it felt like a really safe space to learn and grow. I never felt like I was thrown into the deep end, and every new assignment for me felt like just the right amount of challenge. Like it wasn't easy, but it was accessible. And like with the help of the mentors and the other trainees, I could learn and get through it. And I can say that my skill set probably grew more in that 1 year than it had in the previous 10. It was just such an amazing learning experience. And the other thing I'll mention, because I do want this to be a takeaway point, is that I was 29 when I started as a trainee. So it's really never too late to enter into this career or switch paths. I know when growing up, it feels like or it can be really easy to feel like you're behind if you don't have everything figured out when you're 18 or 22. But at the end of the day, like there's really no rush. And sometimes dreams take time. I know of an animator who applied to the trainee program 9 times. And he eventually got in, and he's like amazing, and his career has skyrocketed. So just I want this to be heard. If this program is something that interests you, like do not give up. Um, I would just like keep ask if you're getting no's, just ask for feedback, work on improving your portfolio, and just keep applying and keep Disney kind of on your radar. So yeah, that's my little speech.
Thank you, Katie. Really appreciate that. And I know that's probably resonating with a lot of folks in the audience because we're seeing some questions come through about kind of making those career pivots, how to transfer those skills. So we can address some of that once we jump into Q&A. But I think like Katie, Kevin, and I have mentioned, staying open, be curious, keep on going for that if that's really your passion. And also, tap into other organizations. Katie, you were part of WIA, right? Back in the day? Yeah.
Yep. Mhm. Yeah, Women in Animation. It's an awesome, awesome organization.
Yeah. So, and just like BRIC, there's so many great, amazing organizations where you can join mentor circles, get that kind of real experience while you're still kind of figuring out what areas you want to apply to, or if you're getting some no's with your application. So just keep up with it and keep on applying. So if you are interested in any future intern apprentice programs here at our studio, definitely check out our website at disneyanimation.com. We have a whole section dedicated to our talent development programs. You can also follow us on social so you can get any updates whenever we post an upcoming role. We try to keep our intern and apprentice roles up for a bit of time, just so folks can get their demo reels, resumes, anything that you need in the right place before you actually apply. And then we'll kind of keep you updated throughout that whole process on what stage your application is in. And for us in Disney Animation, we have over 1,000 employees, but we sit under the Walt Disney Company, and there's like 200,000 people that work for our organization all around the world. And with that comes so many different opportunities. So definitely check out DisneyInterns.com. They have intern programs throughout the entire year. So if something that you're interested in at Disney Animation might not be the right fit at that given moment or not the right timing, definitely check out DisneyInterns.com, and there might be an opportunity right for you. So we are kind of done with our speaking portion. I'm going to pull up the Q&A because I know that we got quite a few questions in here with some limited time. And let me look up. Let's see, Katie. I feel like we got a couple of questions for you. Katie, do you want to maybe talk about when you're approaching a sequence that you're going to work on in animation? How long does that process maybe look like for you?
Sure, yeah, it's definitely a nuanced question that depends on the complexity of the shot. So depending on whether there's one character, multiple characters, or if it's a chest up shot or a full body shot, or if the camera's moving. All of that will add additional time. But generally speaking, gosh, it's hard to put a number, but I think I probably work on animating maybe 5 to 10 seconds every few weeks. It sounds very slow, but some of that, like the first week, might be me, yeah, just kind of planning the shots, and I'll be looking up reference if there's something that I can't shoot reference for, like there's an animal or something. I can't really act out like a dragon, so maybe I'll look up dragon clips of animation, or and if I can't act it out, then I'm gonna be shooting videos of myself and trying to find the best take and then starting the plan. And then there'll be, yeah, iteration of collaboration where I'm showing it to the director, I'm showing it to my animation team. And we might change some things, change some beats, try to make it stronger. Sometimes we throw everything away and start over. And then once it's improved on, I probably have another week or so of just making it look as beautiful as possible and trying to polish every frame. So generally speaking, 2 to 4 weeks on a given packet of shots, which is like, it could be 5 to 10 seconds, but there are special cases where it can be shorter or longer.
Awesome. Thank you, Katie. Kevin, we got a few story related questions for you. And I know that we don't have a ton of time left. So, Kevin, could you maybe share with the audience some top things to keep in mind when somebody's interested in applying as a storyboard artist? What are we looking for?
Oh yeah, so here at Disney, it's this is something that, like, I especially learned after getting here and kind of like seeing, like, asking people what they think about when they're hiring. Um, it's like we look for draftsmanship, which is, drawing, and how good do these storyboards look? Does it look like they did it fast? All that stuff, but they think a lot about story and ideas and having unique ideas. So yeah, the how good your drawings are and stuff kind of like get you past maybe like the first threshold where they're like, okay, which ones kind of like look like they could actually storyboard. And then after that it's kind of uh it turns into like, what ideas are they bringing to the table? Is this story, or what happens in the story, something that we, or in the sequence that you did, something that we've seen before? Is it surprising? That kind of thing. Because once you're in the job, you need to, one, draw well and fast, which I'm always trying to get better at, but two, you're given that script that I talked about before, and that's like the first line of it. And you figure out like, okay, what needs to be plussed from this? Like, is there enough entertainment in this? What's like a specific character thing that can happen, or what's something surprising that can happen for this sequence? And I come into my pitches with tons of alternate ideas, to kind of like feel out like which way they want to go. So kind of just like, that's why you want kind of more unique ideas in your storyboards. That's
Awesome.
what I'd say with like that's what I'd say with like, that's the added thing on top of drawing in your portfolio. Yeah, sorry.
Thank you, Kevin. Yeah, and I would say, especially if you're joining or applying as an intern, trainee, or apprentice, we do not expect you to know everything. Like that is what the programs are meant for. So in each of the job descriptions, definitely check those out, like what the requirements are, what we're looking for. Try to stay within those parameters. So if we say like your demo reel should only be up to 2 minutes long, don't send us like a 10-minute long demo reel. But our recruiters truly do look through any and all applications that come through. Nothing is automated on our end, so definitely get those in. And I would say no matter what department or discipline you're applying to, make sure that storytelling comes across. So if you're applying as an animator, make sure that there's amazing character moments. There's a through line with storytelling. If you're an effects artist and you're including things that might be like exploding or destruction, what is the story behind that piece in your demo reel? Make sure that's coming through. I know we're a little over time, but there was a really great question in here that I would love to ask both Katie and Kevin. What is both of your favorite things about working here at Disney Animation? Katie, do you want to go first?
Sure, yeah. That again is hard to pick because I love so much about it, but I really love the people. There are so many amazing, talented artists from all walks of life, from all parts of the world, and I just love the diversity of perspectives that I interact with. Our animation department especially is really diverse, but there just are so many people that have animated things that I really looked up to growing up. So there's always something to learn, always just fun people to talk to. That would be my answer is the people is probably my favorite thing about working at Disney.
Um, I was really trying to think of something different, but that's really like honestly, I think all around the best thing about working here is the people. Uh, Disney's like what I was excited about when I came in is Disney's like where storyboarding was invented. Um, so I was just kind of like thinking a lot about like working skills, all that stuff getting better, but kind of like as I got here, it's like you're with these people that are so kind and generous, and it kind of like it's just like such a nice work atmosphere, and it feels uh it's like a great creative space, but also like this is where I want to like I'm happy to come into work and see these people. Um, so yeah, same.
Awesome. And then I'm going to echo both of you, the people. It's like that is what makes it so exciting and worth it coming to work every day. So the people are absolutely incredible here at Disney Animation. So I know that we're just about out of time, but thank you again, Kevin and Katie, for just sharing a little bit more about your pathways, journeys here at our studio, a little bit more about your specific departments. And again, thank you everyone that attended this talk. Please reach out to us. You can find us on LinkedIn. And I'm sorry that we couldn't get through all of the amazing Q&As, but definitely go to disneyanimation.com. There you'll be able to find more information on our pipeline, upcoming opportunities, and you can follow us on social whenever those are posted. So thank you, everyone, and hope you'll have a great rest of your day.